Guys, so thank you for coming to our meeting today. We're missing Marlis and Rashana today, so it's going to be myself, Parth, and Michael. Yeah, so we, sent out an article this morning that was written today, actually, on the election and, how it's affecting the markets. It looked like, in past months, a lot of people thought, like, with mail-in voting, not in-person voting, there'd be, like, a big influx of, USPS kind of struggles with getting all the votes consolidated and then counting would actually may like prolong a lot of uncertainty that comes along with the election and may even go past, election date where we may be waiting for results. And it seems like a lot of that uncertainty with the early voting and, additional funding for the postal system actually removed a lot of that uncertainty. And we had a graph in the article with the VIX, the volatility index, and you see it's very volatile right now. It's above like 30, but then after January, when the election ends, it's actually below. Does anyone want to comment on their thoughts on it? I mean, I think it was very interesting. It tied in a lot of like market dynamics with like options tradings and then also like both sides of the election ticket with the Democratic and Republican kind of policy.
So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, Michael.
Yeah, I think that like whenever there's like an election, no matter if it's like right now or in the past, there's always volatility because there's just so much uncertainty like in the marketplace. 'Cause I feel like if Biden gets elected, then I guess the market could go. I guess like the whole policy will get changed, and that would just change the whole dynamic of the market. So no one just really knows who's gonna win the election. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like causing volatility. So I guess kind of hard to figure out what could happen in the future, especially right now.
Yeah, I mean, like definitely two very different candidates. I know a lot of business owners are worried about Biden's tax plan, but
Yeah,
in the article it mentioned how there's like a counter to it because Biden's more for economic stimulus and more packages, more funding for consumer spending and also supporting small business. Um, and then on the flip side of that, there's always the tax cuts that Trump initiated that really inflate corporate margins, and that's like been booming the stock market the last 4 years. So I mean, both sides have their pros and cons towards the market. It's interesting. Um,
Yeah, there was a video that was tagged on the article, and at the end they basically said that no matter who wins, the stock market's not going to be affected that much, which kind of undercuts the entire message of the written article where they said that a Joe Biden victory would surge the market. I mean, personally, I do see how stimulus packages do translate to increases in stock market gains, but over a length of time, does it really do anything? Like, yeah, like when the first stimulus package came out, there was a surge, but now, I mean, are we seeing a correction now? Like, is it really going to make that much of a difference? I mean, yeah, I see as how the stimulus package can create real returns in the moment, but long term, is it really going to affect anything?
That's a great point. What I was actually thinking about was a lot of the rallies in the market occur because of the uncertainty if there's going to be a stimulus package or not. So the market will rally if we hope that we'll actually get a package, but in reality, the package, I mean, it didn't really help us in the long run, did it? So it's more about like predicting if something's going to happen rather than what happens after it actually after the stimulus package actually comes out.
That does make sense.
Yeah. I also think it's hard with the stimulus package when it actual like usually they start off with like a target, they negotiate, and it's likely lower than the initial amount talked about. And then I also think it's harder to track like quantitative easing. Like it may affect interest rates in the long run. It may affect, so many aspects of the economy when like tax cuts in a similar fashion does the same, but you could see it more so on like bottom lines of corporations on the financial statements. So I mean, like immediately tax cuts, you could see how it's going to increase margins for firms, but then quantitative easing or like stimulus plans, I think it's much more difficult to see the long term. I also want to add that today's the last day in Connecticut to register to vote, so you could do that online, if you haven't already. So today's the last day to do that if you're considering voting in the election.
Do you think that I remember the last stimulus package was focused heavily on airlines, and there was real returns the days following. But when you look at the market now for the airlines, sure, new information has come out that they're going to be postponed longer, but I don't really see how the airline stock was dramatically affected. I mean, sure, I don't think they were on the verge of bankruptcy though. So, I mean, are stimulus packages appropriate in times where companies aren't on the verge of bankruptcy?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I didn't pay too much attention to the airlines in terms of like how close they were to bankruptcy. I know they needed money to an extent. Obviously, like most of their demand went to essentially zero during countrywide lockdowns where like if you're from the US, you couldn't travel to the UK. I think business travel now, a lot of it's likely not coming back. I know a lot of firms like Synchrony Financial today announced that, if you're employed there and you want to work from home, you could work from home permanently. So I mean, like business travel and stuff is really going to decline. I'm not sure how much of a portion of travel that is, but I think it's a fair amount where it's really going to hurt the airlines if people work from home.
Not even just airlines travel, but if you think of like the everyday commuter, like let's say, people even they move to New York City just to have these jobs, but companies like Google have came out to say, hey, you don't even need to be on campus. You don't have to come in to work. You can just do it all from home. So this would impact like the entire state's economy as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I'm taking a real estate finance course with Panzap, and we were just talking about like a big boom in Fairfield County with all these people. New York
Mm-hmm.
City, you might have like this amazing apartment, nice view. It's relatively small for what you could get in Fairfield County or surrounding suburbs. And it's like if you're working from home, you want more space. You maybe want a yard to go out. And then, with cities shut down in some parts, like you can't dine in, you can't do other things. It's maybe not even worth living there if you're not working there. So, well,
Uh, yeah. Speaking of actually like, moving out of New York City and migrating to over here in Fairfield County, I actually read something earlier considering the rent crisis in New York and that area. Do
yeah.
you think the rent prices would follow just standard supply and demand? A lot of people are moving out, so there's going to be a lower demand, right? But do
Um,
you think rent would increase or decrease right now?
I mean, in the short run, it should decrease if there's less demand. But in the long run, other factors like supply come into play because it takes a while for them to build new apartments. So it just depends on, you know, how soon we get a vaccine, stuff like that. But in the short run, if people aren't renting and there's not enough like bidding, I mean, to get supply to meet demand, they would probably have to lower home price.
Hmm. I mean, I know New York City is like a very high target destination, but even sometimes the rent's too high.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Any other comments on the election market? If not, we could start going into the market watch part.
So yeah, I have a quick comment on airlines.
Mhm.
So with like businesses like you said, Synchrony, like some employees could permanently work from home. Do you guys think business travel is ever going to be at the point before it was during before coronavirus, or do you think it already reached its peak pretty much already?
I think maybe not. I mean, I think it depends. Like personally, I would rather go into an office and work, maybe not like
Yeah,
every day of the
Mhm.
week, but definitely like as emerging like entry level employees, it's definitely great to have like development in person rather than like online. Um,
yeah, definitely.
there's a lot of benefits in the office, but I know like some people maybe higher up don't need that like in-person interaction or maybe not as much so they won't need to travel if it's just like a weekend trip or something. I see those probably not coming back. But if it's like a maybe longer term business trip, um
Yeah.
probably those stick around.
I think I definitely agreed to that point. I do think that there's going to be quasi-permanent changes to especially the airline industries, and we'll probably see lingering effects on revenue by those businesses for like at least 2 years. I think eventually it's going to come back up, like they're going to see a pickup in travel, but I do think that there's going to be these lingering effects from coronavirus where they might be a little extra more cautious, similar to the radical changes in regulation after 9/11. I think maybe they'll have more mask policies, maybe build airplanes with a little farther seating. I'm not sure, but I'm sure there'll be some effects. But as far as revenue, I'm sure it'll pick back up.
It's a great point. Like, it takes a minute for me to digest it.
I mean, it's definitely different depending on when we get the cure. I mean, I don't know how many of these companies are saying permanent and then may retract that, depending on, if economy fully opens. And I mean, I know some of like the larger investment banks, they're calling for employees to come back into the office. They're finding that they're not as efficient at home, not getting as much done. I mean, personally, like working from home, studying from home, whatever, um, it's definitely a different experience. It doesn't feel the same. Um, I mean, you make some adjustments. Like if you know some people in the class, you could get them on WebEx to like study together. I know Parth and I did that with a few people for one of our midterms, but it's just not the same as being in person. There's so many things that you're missing out on.
Yeah, it's a lot of it just like having like the perfect area to work in even. So, I'm currently blessed. I'm in my parents' basement right now.
Yeah.
But if you have like maybe a noisy younger brother or not the best at home situation, it's terrible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The environment comes to play.
Do you want to move on to the market watch?
Yeah. Do you want me to skip to that slide, or do you want to share?
Oh, I'll share. There's a few links I'd like to share as well.
Okay, perfect. Go Parth.
Oh, it's already sharing? Okay. So right now I just want to look to the market watch. Is Graham here? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't think he's here. I think he's probably prepping for the stock pitch.
Oh, okay. So Graham right now is still in the number one spot, holding the lead. He actually has not made any trades since the 12th. So
Oh no.
he bought ENP, I think that's what it's ENPH, which is an energy stock, nothing in materials so far. So he looks like he's taking the week off, but it's working out for him.
Yeah. Well, I noticed his NIO was up like over 50% at one point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, he could have, done like a
Oh,
stop loss.
wow.
Yeah. So he could have done like a stop loss or something, taken some profits or, just for the retraction, but he's still up a lot in it. It's still a great position. But
Yeah, it's a great success for him. Wow.
yeah, that was that Chinese electric company, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a huge market, I guess.
I wonder how he even found out about this. Next, we have George. Can we look into yours?
Yeah. I mean, nothing new. I'm still holding the energy stocks. I mean, like just finished up midterms on Sunday actually. So I'm gonna look to get into some materials. Sell out of these. I think I may keep PE. Because I was talking to my brother who's been watching the stock closely, and they're announcing a merger. And I think the company merging with it is going to pay 12 per share.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's at like 10.38. I know they're announcing earnings after hours tomorrow. How that goes. I may put a stop loss on it, maybe at like 25, just in case. Something I'll have to look further into the exact price that I'll initiate that at. But so far it's been a good choice, along with the other one, which is similar. It's like natural gas and oil based out of Texas. So
EPD.
yeah,
All right,
that's another.
they both look good.
Yeah.
Okay, best of luck.
Thank you, Parth.
For Kenny, he only has stock in SBE, which he bought actually quite some time ago. This will just be the last one we'll look into. This is an energy company which it's had some returns, but it's really dipped down in the last week or so. So maybe he can
Oh, yeah.
make his money back, hopefully just by holding this one. But what I wanted to talk about today was just how does even I guess someone even look into materials stocks or this entire sector. So one source I found was Yahoo Finance has something called a screener. So let's say I'll type in tech, and you can click on screeners right here, or it should be something here in the search list that'll bring up certain screeners for different companies. So right now, this is the basic material sector. So this is just for raw materials. So like, let's say gold, silver, mining companies, standard resource companies. Is a great way to see which stocks to look into, which have the best potential. You can see the best ones that's been performing percent-wise is X, also known as U.S. Steel. You can look at the ones doing terribly. Like these companies, I don't know any of these at the top of my head, but I did notice Sherwin-Williams and WD-40 are in the lead. So what do you think that says about today's market? Do you think people are doing more at-home work projects?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I think also I know again from the real estate finance course, there's been an increase in supply of real estate in Fairfield County. So
Oh yeah.
a lot of construction. So I mean that would make sense with like paint and other products related to that.
Yeah. A lot of people are selling houses in here for really good prices.
Hmm.
So next, let's see if I can. So this is another website I found. If anyone wants the actual links, they'll be included in the PowerPoint here. The first one was on Yahoo Finance,
Mhm.
and this one is a website called Finviz. So this is a more technical stock approach, I'd say. So right now I'm looking in the industry of basic materials, but sooner rather than later we'll look into healthcare, technology. We already actually looked into utilities, real estate. So right now I clicked on materials, and you'll be able to dissect which products are doing well and which products are doing poorly. Interestingly enough, paper products are doing the worst right here for the right now today. And then we can look into, say, long term. So let's say maybe 3 months would be the best, or maybe half a year. I'm surprised all of these companies have gone up and doing well.
Mhm.
Let's see over here, wood and all the mining materials that I mentioned before, doing poorly actually. Steel, we looked at the ticker X before, doing very well. But this might seem like a little bit of confusing to understand where the actual tickers. So you can look over here, which is the visualizations. You can see, I think it's the full year view of each of these companies within the basic materials. So right here, this is the only filter I have attached. So let's say you want to buy something, the basic materials, but you want to do something long term to make money off dividends. So you could click here and look at the whole list of basic material stocks filtered to see what best fits your interest. So we have BBL up at the top. And then you can sort out by each one and then filtering by, let's say, wherever the cheapest stocks you have or the most expensive. Let's see what the most recent public companies are. So maybe you want to do a startup or something new with a merger. There's a lot of different ways you can work with this. If anyone remembers Sahil, he worked a lot with technical stock information, so he might be a great resource to learn more about how the market works. But as for now, this is all. That's it. This is a great resource to understand how the market's working. Does anyone want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to know, how do people, that are at this meeting right now, how do you guys research your stocks? I mean, there's so many different ways. There's, doing like the technical analysis with this, just like simple screening for what you think may go ahead. I know some people go as far as going into like the SEC Edgar database and looking at like 10Qs and 10Ks. It's unfortunate the campus isn't as open as it was last semester. With Bloomberg and all the other terminals. But I'm just curious, like, what do people use?
I typically stay with Yahoo Finance. I find it's pretty informational, and as well as Morningstar,
Yeah,
which has been pretty useful for me.
Morningstar, the software or their reports?
The reports.
Yeah, yeah, I like their reports too. And Yahoo's good. It gives a lot of metrics, like a lot of ratios. Um, just a few
Yeah,
clicks.
their finance section is pretty robust, but not every company is up to date.
That's true. Yeah. All right, any others you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, when I was more into the market, I really use a lot of like the discussion based, like
Mhm.
I'm sure a lot of people know Wall Street Bets, but I just like seeing people talk about different opinions. I know there's one app called StockTwits. It's literally Twitter for stocks.
Yeah.
So a lot of hot takes. It was really interesting and funny to read. Honestly, it did not make me money. I lost money because of it, but
Yeah.
I did have fun. I thought it was funny. Yeah, I managed to have fun.
Yeah, no,
But
I've
yeah,
actually I've looked at both. I like stock twits. I think it's funny what people say. You could see a lot of like pumpers, stuff like that. I know Wall Street Bets. Sometimes you may come across some people um, that have like really in-depth analysis and it's like very thorough, and then others it's just like you know kind of a rant on why they think something is a certain way or what's going to happen. I know like
mhm.
before I knew about Wall Street Bets, I used to use this site seekingalpha.com. There's like a lot of CFAs, CPAs, a lot of like certified, financial people. There's great posts on that too. I know that's like a really maybe a more Seeking Alpha. If you want to check, it's a very credible source for most of them. You can like follow their trades, like post their just another perspective. That's really all it is.
The one thing I actually thought was really cool is this site called TradingView. I actually learned this from Sahil.
Mhm.
What I thought was cool about this website was not only like the little buy meter, hey, you should buy this stock or sell. I mean, it's a little of a gimmick, but what I like is the idea sector. So this is what different users submit their ideas of how the stock will perform. So right now we have AMD, and they actually just announced a buy for a new tech company. I don't know it off the top of my head, but you can see what people are thinking about it. A lot of people are saying here you could say to short it. This was just 6 hours ago. Let's say 23 hours ago, a premium user called Bulls Chart said he thinks it'll go long. Scrolling down, this guy says it will go long, and if you click into it, they'll have proof or due diligence for their ideas. So you can see a whole lot of information. Honestly, most of this I don't understand, but it's really interesting to learn about. It's kind of like a social platform for stocks.
It's definitely better than Reddit.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of an Investopedia?
I've heard of it. I've used it as more of a dictionary for
Yeah,
like say my finance classes.
It's
yeah,
good for
same.
like articles if you're trying to learn a little bit more about an industry, where the money's flowing.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good resource and they're definitely credible. Anything else anybody wants to mention?
All right. Yeah. So, Partha, I'm just going to share my screen. Huskies for Charity, another UConn student organization, reached out. They're doing a virtual scavenger hunt over Thanksgiving break in support of kids in crisis. So we're going to send out an email later after we post a YouTube recording of this meeting for those that weren't able to make it. But basically, our club can form a team of 5 to do a virtual scavenger hunt in support of Kids for Crisis. I believe it's free. We're going to look into that. You download the app and you go on like little missions to like take photos of things around, Stanford, Greenwich, Fairfield County area. Again, over November break. It's going to support kids in crisis. So we'll send out an email, hopefully get a team of 5 together. I know she said if we get over 5 for the team, we could do a second team. I think they have room up to 20 teams. So
That's cool. Really wholesome.
yeah, no, I think it's great that they're able to kind of pivot into virtual events and fundraisers. So
Yeah, I recommend everyone to do all the UConn programs or events we're having. Here, I can maybe show. So the other day I did the UConn suicide prevention walk.
okay,
I got this cool T-shirt, but it's almost all of it should be free. There's the UConn Fall Fest coming up. It was rescheduled to next week, and I think they have spots open. Maybe you should guys look into it. But it's a great way to get outside. I really, 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 really recommend it, especially nowadays. Nowadays there's less of an excuse to go out,
Yeah.
especially due to the weather.
yeah, I think it's good. I didn't know you participated in that. I know I saw like they're very active on Instagram, Huskies for Charity. So I saw this happening. But I'm glad to hear that good turnout. All right, well, I guess that's it for today. I guess Callie put something in the chat. Does anyone have any questions or concerns, anything before we end the meeting today? No. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you very much, George.